Okay, I thought I would talk through how to run your MuseScore project into another DAW. Basically, you're routing MIDI internally through the IAC bus on your Mac. So if you go into Audio MIDI Setup here, it defaults to the audio window, which what you're going to do is you're going to open your window for MIDI Studio, and it'll show you your MIDI devices. And when I did this originally, my IAC driver was not active, and so it was grayed out. So you may have to open up this information window and click this Devices Online button to get it to show. It will then show you how many ports it has, and you can, I believe, make more ports if you'd like. Maybe not. But we're going to just use just the one here. So I'm going to hit apply. And I'm going to go ahead and close out. And so that should just be sort of in your computer waiting to be used. So if you go over here to your MuseScore file or program, and if you basically, I'll just create a new score to demonstrate. Let's use a strings, violin, viola, and be done. And let's say I want to do okay. And so now I want, I don't know, I'm just making up some stuff. Okay. So let's say I have that going out to it sounds terrible, but that doesn't matter. What we're doing is we're going to send this to our internal bus. So what we're going to come back to this mixer here in a minute, but in MuseScore's preferences, we're going to select our I/O settings to be IAC driver bus 1. Remember, I made all these other options too, but instead I'm going to stick with the bus 1 here. Okay. Click OK. That might be its default setting. I'm not sure. But the trick will be then to turn off the playback from its internal synthesizer so that when you do hit play here, you don't hear it, but it's sending its MIDI out into the bus. So let's open up Logic. And we'll create a new project with a software instrument with an empty channel strip. And what we'll do is load an instrument into this, like Kontakt 5. I'll use Kontakt 5 because it has the best options here. Well, I can start with Studio Strings actually, and then I'll show you a Kontakt 5. But basically, your MuseScore file is now sending its MIDI into this track in Logic. Let me go back here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this a million times so that we get a bunch of sound. This is not my best piece, of course. Oops. Okay, doesn't matter. So that's what we can do there. And then to record its output, we create another track that is not that we create an audio track that is listening to inputs 1 and 2, and we'll record that. So I'm going to make these a little bigger. So your software instrument is what's reading the MIDI. And this is listening to its output. And so you could just record this. Okay, and in this way we have a little bit more control over our audio. Now, it's going to also record your MIDI, but that doesn't matter you don't really need the MIDI in here, especially because your tempo is not aligned. It's not all clocked together, and it's not coordinated as much as it is in the MuseScore file. So it's better just to either export a whole MIDI file to bring into this, or just to record the audio, okay? So, and then in this way, we can engineer this a little bit better by putting some effects on it or EQing it better, just to make it sound a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to take a step back and load up Kontakt Player. And if you have access to Kontakt Player, it allows you to do more. So instead of this instrument, I'm going to use Kontakt Player 5. And it'll take a minute to load. And you'll see I can load these string instruments into the two channels of my output here. So sustain is pretty good. And that's going to be my first instrument, my channel 1 instrument. If I do it again, if I double click this instrument again, it'll listen to channel 2. So under MIDI, any notation software, you can see that the top track is channel 1 and the bottom is channel 2. For some reason it's not showing that over there on the second line, my viola line. I'm not sure why, but my viola is, maybe if I had maybe it's putting, no, oh, I don't have it selected over here, my mistake. So now we see it's on channel 4. So my viola is sent to channel 4. I can change that to channel 2 or whichever channel I prefer, so that they're listening on the same channels. So violin and viola are being sent violin 1 to channel 1, viola to channel 2. Now if I go over here to my Logic Sesh, I've got this sustain is also in channel 2. So if I close this out, I should be getting my sounds if I hit play on my... So now I'm getting the sounds out of these instruments instead. Which has a whole lot more ability. So that gives you a lot more potential for sound, for good quality sound recordings, especially if you have access to the Kontakt Player or a set of plugins that are a good set of samples. So that's how you route to the internal bus. I'm going to close this and not save, and I'll close this as well. And sorry, save. All right. And notice that I'm quitting out of everything because it's interesting how these programs need to be sort of dealing with MIDI in the right way. You have to sort of release the MIDI control before you start opening up another program. So in Sibelius, Sibelius is a similar deal. Also, I'll show this as well. Sibelius, you are basically going through this thing a different way, in which you find your plays setup over here in the ribbon, and it defaults to these chamber sounds. But to set up the driver to go to the internal bus, you have to create a new configuration, and so we'll say the bus. I don't know, you can call it whatever you want to. The bus. And so if you have a blank slate, you can select your device. Let me see if I can find it in this list. Okay, so remember I made this is the original one, and for some reason I made all these other internal buses. I only need the one. So I'm going to remove Sibelius Player because that's the set of samples I don't want to use just for the sake of argument. And I do want to send this to the bus. So if I set that to the bus and let's hit close, and I want to save, yes. So this is going to, again, you're not going to hear the sounds, but it's going to be sent to that external bus. If I open up Logic again, and let's open up Foo again, it's going to open up the Kontakt Player that I already had. And remember, I had things set to channel 1, channel 2. I'm going to add, again, another channel 3, channel 4. And these are going to go in sequence of channel. And I'm going to hit play on my Sibelius file, and it should send everybody to the bus. So it's sending audio to my instruments here. And I can again change all the different parameters, the balance. There's ways in which you can make your scores sound a little bit better by routing them into a DAW if you've got good samples. Okay? Okay.